Hey, Captain Logos here, preacher at live, teaching the word, inspiring 3 minutes at a time. Hey, in Colossians 1, Paul is writing a letter to the Colossians, this little group of Christian believers, right? And he's encouraging them because some of the saints there wrote letters back to Paul and said, hey man, these people are growing in the Lord, they're loving people, they're growing in knowledge, they're growing in grace. And so Paul writes to the Colossians, and he wants to tell them, thank you for this, encourage them, uplift them, right? One of the things there that was happening, right? It's a young church, new believers, right? He was sort of focused on, because he says it several times throughout Colossians 1, is they were bearing fruit, right? Is your life bearing fruit? Yeah. Are people being blessed by you? Are you growing in the Lord? There has to be fruit. There has to be fruit, right? But there's 3 things that he points out. And I think the first part is the reason why we don't do the second part or the third part. And the first part is, in the middle of that chapter, he says these 3 things. He says, walk worthy of the Lord. Yeah. We have to walk this life worthy, because if we're not walking in this life worthy as unto the Lord, nothing else is going to happen. You won't bear fruit if you're not walking worthy. He says that to walk worthy of the Lord, right? That would make the Lord proud of the way you live your life. And then he said they were bearing fruit. Well, it was because they were walking in the Lord, pleasing God, they begin to bear fruit. And the last thing is, they were growing in the wisdom and knowledge of the Lord, right? If you're not walking worthy, and if you're not in the Word, you will never bear fruit. The only way to bear fruit, spiritual fruit, is by spiritual means. And that takes the first 2 things of walking in the Lord, and the last thing of just knowing God, loving God, right? Yeah, you got to grow in knowledge of the Word as you obtain that love and that knowledge, right? So we got to walk worthy, we got to grow in knowledge of the Lord, and then we can bear fruit. If there's no fruit in your life, maybe you ought to check one of those 2 things and see if you're in compliance with the will of God and the Word of God. Now, in order to do that, you got to get your face in the Bible.